I know you came to this from spoken word as well. And I shouldn't say came to it from, but you had a whole trajectory in Lady Grail, Samantha Rahim, like, right? All the identities and I feel like performance is still so much a part of your poetics. And so I wondered if you could talk about that relationship, the performance, the embodiment, the poetry.
I've come to really collapse my ideas of performance, strangely enough, in the sense that I've actually come to see the writing of poetry as a performance of my interiority. So even the act of writing is performance. And the act of performance is a part of the writing process. Because every time I put a word in the air, I put poems in the air, I'm still revising, like as we talked about earlier. So my ideas of like creation and performance have become collapsed. But yes, I do have I've come a long way with that because, I have this this sort of fissure in my psyche that comes from like leaving my homeland from a young age and moving to another place. So I have a hybrid personality. I have the ability to code switch and vacillate between worlds. I've traveled all over the world and I'm like a chameleon that stands out. And so similarly with my identity as a poet, that same thing happened where I started out with Mr. Zucker, with the line and with the breath and keeping my poems very private and on the page and not sharing them with anybody except for people that wanted to read them. I wasn't reading them out loud. And then falling in love with spoken word at Florida State University and seeing the ways in which the words made music in the air between the poet and the audience and the interplay with the audience and the immediacy of that connection, I was attracted to that. And then I started to fall into that, and then I created two separate works. I'm studying at Florida State University with Barbara Hamby, David Kirby, James Kimbrell, applying to University of Virginia, getting my poems workshopped, la-di-da, and then I'm, ripping stages from Jacksonville to Tallahassee, hustling CDs out of a trunk of my car, and like having like a full-blown spoken word career. And that was Samantha Rahim, that was Lady Griot, this was the storyteller in me. And I had this split poetic identity that when I went to the University of Virginia, it kind of crystallized where I felt like that whole stage versus page discussion, debacle, I don't know what to call it. I felt like I wanted to find a way to fuse. And maybe they never would. Like maybe I was fine with there being poems that just existed perfectly on the stage and in a CD somewhere, and then poems that I would eventually publish. And I found myself trying to find the happy medium. Like this is a poem I can slam and publish in the Paris Review. Did I accomplish that? Maybe I slammed some poems that I published in other magazines. I got kind of close. Like I found there were poems that they didn't score high in slams and they didn't get widely published, but they reached a middle ground. I felt like I didn't want to have a dual identity where I'm doing these kind of poems here, but it still happens. So I'm in a place where I'm at peace with a body of work from a Lady Griot. That these are all poems that are off book. These are poems that rhyme. These are poems that sound like hip hop. These are poems that that are my 20s. And I went to South Africa in December and rocked those poems like they were new. It was incredible. And then I had this venture of reading poems from the animated universe that I don't necessarily have memorized, which is highly uncomfortable for me. I like being able to talk to my audience unencumbered. The work it takes to get there is still to come with this book where I can say this book to an audience. That's my goal.